It's been more than a year since the start of the pandemic, and we've used online education exclusively. The question remains, are we fine with it? Stick around, let's find out if we can actually answer this through this video. Hello and welcome to my channel, Let's Summarize It. My name is Hussam Al-Daman, and today we're going to talk about something that is really interesting. Online education. Are we fine with it? This is based on an article that was published in Forbes entitled The Worst of Times for Online Education. This was published on the 31st of March 2021 by Derek Newton. The paper begins by saying that this should actually be the golden age for online education, mainly because students and faculty members were completely engulfed in this medium, and without it, education would have come to a complete halt. The article looks at this experience as a test drive. They use the test drive analogy, that you're given this opportunity to drive a car, to test it, to see how it goes. So it should be a positive experience. They go on to say in the paper that there was a public offering of shares by Coursera. It was a very successful public offering, IPO. And of course, Coursera is a provider of MOOCs and online courses. So the article says that this exposure, the test drive, the public offering of Coursera, this is an excellent exposure that could actually make this particular online education experience very successful. They again use the analogy of, let's imagine you're test driving an electric car when that's the only car that is allowed to be on the road. How would things be? They would say things would be great because there is no other option. However, this has been a very difficult period for online education. It is actually widely disliked. The experience has not been very positive. They go on to say that this is based on empirical data. For example, they quoted a very recent report published in February 2021 by Barnes & Noble's College. In the report, they included a survey. They asked questions of students and faculty members. They asked questions regarding online education. 44% of students stated that they believe that the value of university education has actually declined as a result of the pandemic. Even worse, 94% of students believe that online classes should not cost as much as the face-to-face, should be less actually. Overall, it is very negative. Of course, in the paper they say that not everybody feels that way, but the majority does. They go on to say that there's another survey by McKinsey, and this time they talked to teachers and they said, we're going to give you this statement and rank it from 1 to 10, 10 being the highest. The statement is, online education is equivalent to in-person education. The score that was given by the teachers, the instructors, was 3.5. So it showed that the faculty members and the students dislike this medium. The survey by McKinsey also exposed something that is very important, which is online education is even worse for poor students or for schools that are under-resourced. The paper comes back to talk about the analogy of electric cars. They're saying, now, if there are no other means of transportation other than electric cars, and the people come back and say, well, we didn't like it, and we think it should cost less than the gas-powered vehicles, what would that mean to the manufacturers of electric cars? It would not be a very good indication. However, they say, but wait a second, how is this being reflected in the Coursera public offering on the stock exchange? Why was it received so well? And they conclude by saying that this has not been a very pleasant experience. However, there are things that are still unknown. Now, I wanted to stop at this paper, and then I would like to begin by looking at another paper that was published by Forbes. This is an article that was published by Enrique Danz. This was 4 months earlier, November 30th, 2020. The title of this article is, Whether We Like It or Not, Online Teaching is the Future. So let's start learning how to do it properly. That's the title. So The paper begins by acknowledging that number one, online education has been a very unpleasant experience. Number two, online, as delivered right now, is not as good as face-to-face. So this is the acknowledgement at the start of this article. However, they say that online was not a choice. It was done as an emergency response at a time when faculty and students lacked the equipment and lacked the know-how. More importantly, it says, we know why people don't like online education. And this is the reason. The article says the following. The reason why online is disliked is because it is actually treated exactly as face-to-face. So the instructors brought their face-to-face expertise to the online realm, which means that they actually lectured to students. So students were sitting at home following a 1-hour lecture provided by an instructor. Of course they're going to dislike it because they never liked that particular medium, even when it was face-to-face. So how would you feel if you're sitting down, unable to move, and just listening to someone talk for about an hour? The author says that certain things have to be put in place in order for this to be done more successfully. Number one, we have to create interactive models that avoid prolonged unidirectional delivery. So we should not have just one person talking all the time. This has to be something that is more engaging for the students. We need to rely on real-time analytics to evaluate the attitude and the progress of students. And we need to create an immersive environment that reduces their distraction. Effectively, what they say is that developing online education means that we, as faculty or teachers, we have to be re-educated in the use of technology. And I will use this quote, which says, face-to-face class is prepared, however, an online class is produced. And I'll be talking more about this in future videos. The first article that was written by Derek Newton concluded that the online learning experience did not go so well. However, in the same article, it concluded by saying that the stock exchange welcomed the Coursera initial public offering, the listing of the stock, which meant that investors are confident in that particular medium of education in the future. The second article that was written by Enrique Danz, he said that also online education was not so good and people did not apply it properly. However, in that article, he called for a change in the way that we approach online learning so that we can actually have it as a credible medium of education in the future. My conclusion is that online learning will never be the only way to learn in the future. It's going to be one of many mediums out there. However, the market's enthusiasm for the Coursera stock means that investors know and have this idea that in the future, online education is going to be something that we will have to take more seriously.